Welcome, welcome. Good morning. It is lovely to see you. Dear President of the EIB, Commissioner Hansen, ComAgri Chair, dear Minister, distinguished guests, both here in the room and joining us online. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It is really lovely to see you. My name is Sasha Twining. I am your host, your moderator for this morning's sessions, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here and a pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of EU Agri-Food Days. We have an awful lot to discuss. Now, this event, as you know, is organised by the European Commission's Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development. And over the next few days, we will bring together everybody from within the industry and the sector and the whole environment, everyone together in this room and online, having the conversations that matter. And together we will discuss the latest agricultural trends, the latest policies, the latest concerns, challenges, the possibilities, everything that is coming together to help this sector thrive. We'll be discussing it here and online, all together with a very open dialogue. Now, this is the first time that we've brought together the Agricultural Outlook Conference and also the EU Agri-Digital Conference. So over the next 3 days, you'll have different sessions touching on different areas, but again, bringing everyone together so that those big conversations can be had here. It's a very big room. It's a very, very big audience online. So please make use of the translation if you need it. If you've not been in this room before, you will find the translation sets on the desk in front of you. And to pick your appropriate language, there is a button on the top right-hand side of the screen that possibly says floor, or it might say a language. If you need to change it, click on that little grey button. It's next to the time on your set, and you can scroll to the language that you want. And then select that one and be able to follow along. We have lots of people speaking in English. The main conference will be in English, but some people will be speaking in their mother tongue as well. So translation is available. Plus, because this is such a large group of us and we want to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions, we'll be using Slido, both online and here in the room. And your moderators will talk you through how to use that as we go through. So, dear guests, there is a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. Let us get started. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our opening words to set the scene of this 3-day conference. Opening words from the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
President Calvino, dear Commissioner Hansen, dear Minister Nudge, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to open again the European Agri-Food Days. This is the event of the year for European agriculture and food, and it comes at a very special time. As the festive season approaches, families and friends will gather around tables across Europe. We will all celebrate with our favorite dish, be it bûche de Noël or panettone, because nothing brings people together like sharing a meal. And these festive moments are possible thanks to the hard work of our farmers, fishers, and everyone in Europe's agri-food system. Since the dawn of times, you have been the custodians of our most cherished traditions and landscapes. And our continent's future depends also on a thriving agri-food sector. And this is why last year I invited the representatives of your sector to get together in the strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture. Since then, a lot has been done. You have put forward your recommendations unanimously, And we have already started to act on them. Just let me mention 3 key outcomes of the strategic dialogue. First, you asked us to cut the administrative burden for farmers. And we are delivering on this with more flexibility, more incentives, more exemptions for small farms, and no more micromanagement. Because you deserve more trust and more time to focus on what you do best. Second, you stressed that farmers are often the weakest link in the value chain. And sometimes you have no other choice than selling your products below production costs. This cannot be. So, this week, we are proposing to review 2 important laws: the Common Market Organization Regulation, to create more transparency and predictability, both on contracts and prices that farmers receive, and the Unfair Trading Practices Directive, to give better protection to small farms and food companies when they deal with bigger buyers. Farmers need to be in a stronger bargaining position towards the price makers. Your hard work deserves to be rewarded. And third, in the dialogue, you highlighted that the number of young people who choose a career in farming is getting too small. We must reverse this trend. Young people need the right incentives to enter this noble profession: a fair income, access to land, access to finance, and more. And today, the European Investment Bank will announce 3 billion euros in agri-food investments with a strong focus on young farmers. And I would like to thank Nadia Calviño for our excellent cooperation on this. It is a message to young people who want to take over the family farm or start a new organic business. Europe is at your side. And all of this is just the beginning. In the first 100 days of the new Commission, we will present a new vision for agriculture and food, looking at how to support the competitiveness and the sustainability of your sector. And our engagement with you will continue. Last week, for example, we launched the European Board on Agriculture and Food. This is another key demand of the strategic dialogue. Applications are open, and I hope many of you will be part of it. The board will be the natural continuation of the strategic dialogue. It will provide advice on strategic policy initiatives, and it will foster dialogue among its members. The agri-food sector is at the heart of our European way of life. Your future is essential to the future of Europe, and I want this future to be shaped with you. So thank you very much, and I hand over to my dear colleague Christoph Hansen. For the next 5 years, he will not only be your main point of contact with the Commission, but also a trusted advocate for your interests in my college. I welcome you all to the European Agri-Food Days.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will hear from Commissioner Hansen in just a moment on more of those themes. But first, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the President of the European Investment Bank, Nadia Calviño. Nadia, thank you.
Thank you. Dear Commissioner, dear Christoph, distinguished guests and partners, it is impressive to see a full room, a full house today to discuss one of the top European priorities. And I am very pleased to be here to see and to explain what the European Investment Bank is doing to support European policies in this area. How can we work together to secure a successful future for European agriculture and the wider bioeconomy? And although President von der Leyen already spoiled the announcement by saying how the European Investment Bank is actually stepping up its financial support to this sector. As our key food producers, guardians of our rural communities, protectors of our biodiversity, it is clear that Europe's farmers are vital to the European way of life, as President von der Leyen just said, and also they are a major force for our economic success. And this is why investing in Europe's agriculture and the bioeconomy is one of our core 8 strategic priorities at the European Investment Bank Group. We put it very high in our strategic roadmap. We presented it to our shareholders, the 27 member states, and our strategic roadmap was unanimously supported by them, which means that as financing arm of the European Union and one of the world's largest multilateral financial institutions, we take our support to this sector very seriously. Those of you that are working in farming know very well, you're the best place to know what are the challenges that we're confronted with. Strong counterparties and clients, it has already been mentioned in the introductory speech, volatile prices, scarce long-term credit. And this is especially the case for young farmers, when finding the funds they need to modernize the production, to digitalize and adopt new technologies, to adopt more suitable, more modern practices in their daily business. And even when the funding is there, it usually comes at a very high price, high interest rate, demands for collateral. And at the same time, farmers are on the front line of increasingly extreme weather events. They are more costly, they are more frequent, and the need for affordable food continues to grow. Well, you know, this is, I think, a short summary of the challenges of this sector. The European Investment Bank has been working closely with Europe's farmers for decades. We are financing the key infrastructure investments, irrigation systems, transport and new equipment for the agri-food industry. More recently, we are also financing investments in digital platforms that match farmers with the clients, for example, sustainable agriculture, the circular economy, research, biotech. And today I am happy to inform you that the European Investment Bank Group recently approved a 3 billion euro pan-European agriculture program for small and medium-sized businesses. It is the largest financing package dedicated to European agriculture, forestry and fisheries in our group's history. And these funds can be blended with grants from the European budget or with national grants coming from national programs. And to crowd in more investment, we are looking at innovative financing mechanisms that could help de-risk these bioeconomy projects and make credit more affordable. For example, public guarantees, interest rate rebates. Overall, we expect to mobilize more than 8 billion euros in financing for Europe's agriculture and the overall bioeconomy, with a strong focus on support to young farmers, green investments, and gender equality. We also need to rethink insurance and other de-risking programs for the sector, which is at the forefront of climate change. Just this morning, I was discussing with the Commissioner, with Christophe, how droughts and floods, like we have recently seen in Central Europe, or even more recently in my home country, in Spain, they illustrate very well the need to deal with extreme weather events that are increasingly costly. They are becoming increasingly uninsurable. So together with the European Commission, the insurance industry and farmers themselves, we are working on ways to provide European support to deal with these extreme situations. And those efforts obviously have to be complementing national insurance schemes and need to be absolutely subject to a principle of building back better, reinforcing our adaptation, the resilience of our infrastructures. Every euro we invest in resilience and adaptation to climate change can save between 5 to 7 euros in repairs, in the costs, knowing also that some of the costs are simply irrecoverable, like the loss of human lives. So supporting ways to help limit the damage is an increasing focus for us at the European Investment Bank Group, because it's not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do for all of us. And adaptation can take many forms. For example, we're investing in innovative solutions in companies that are developing high-performance seeds, as Florimond-des-Prés in the north of France, increasingly focused on breeding plants that are resistant to extreme heat or droughts, as well as illness or pests. We're also working in broader infrastructure projects, for example, water management and irrigation in Navarra, in Spain. Our canal extension project will conserve water and energy. It will restore existing bodies of water and also diversify the kinds of crops that can be grown in the region. This is an important example of how climate and competitiveness go hand in hand to make a winning tandem for Europe. And we are looking into how to finance the second stage of this project, which is going to boost agricultural production in areas that we're seeing rural communities shrink. Because as I said at the beginning, the agricultural sector is also key to preserve our communities throughout the whole of the European Union. We have been participating very actively in the strategic dialogue on the future of EU agriculture that President von der Leyen was referring to, and working on a comprehensive action plan, which in addition to these 3 billion euros in new financing and a fresh look at insurance that I already mentioned, is also including venture debt and private equity programs to support innovative companies developing new agriculture technologies and in the whole value chain of the agri-food industry. Guarantee schemes that are making it easier for farmers to access credit or other forms of support, support for agricultural organizations, and increased investment in rural infrastructure, such as roads, irrigation, storage infrastructure, internet connectivity, education, water management, etc. There is much to be done, but I remain optimistic because we are not working alone. There is a strong concerted effort on the part of the European Commission, European member states, the private sector to improve the way we work together. Over the past 12 months since I took up the job as president of the European Investment Bank, I have visited each and every one of the 27 member states to engage with our partners, to talk to our governors, the ministers for finance of the different member states. And one key message that I have heard is that it is urgent to simplify the way the EU works. President von der Leyen has also mentioned it. This means cutting down red tape, the administrative burdens, and we at the European Investment Bank are also committed to this. We are engaging actively with the European Commission with concrete proposals on how to simplify sustainability reporting so that we keep the incentives for the green transition, but in a manner which is proportionate and reduce the burden for financial institutions, for large and small companies, and also for the farmers. I think that together we can build a more resilient sector that continues to be at the heart of Europe. Europe is an agriculture powerhouse, and we're starting from a very strong basis on which we can build. And so I think that we can be ambitious when looking forward. By combining our strengths and sharing our knowledge, we can ensure that agriculture remains a successful contributor to economic success, but also to the strength of our local communities. And I am happy to report, and I close on this note, my confidence also comes from the fact that we have a close working relation with the European Commission, with DG Agri, with DG Environment, with all the different DGs. We just had a meeting with the new commissioner, and it took us like 5 minutes to agree on a number of work streams. Our visions are absolutely aligned, and I think that you know very well you can count on the European Investment Bank to be at your side in this important endeavor. I look forward to continuing to see all of you and to engage in this constructive dialogue. And thank you very much for inviting me to open this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And I have to say, I bet there's a lot of people in the room wishing that they could have many 5-minute meetings where so many things could be agreed so quickly. Thank you for joining us this morning. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to the stage the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food. Please welcome Christoph Hansen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it is for me a big pleasure to be here to open and to welcome you at the first day of the EU Agri-Food Days. I think it is a very important event because it brings together actors all around the food value chain, and this is important to build a constructive dialogue. I'm very pleased that we could welcome this morning our EIB President Nadia Calviño, but also I would like to welcome the chair of the Agri Committee from the European Parliament, Mrs. Veronika Vrecinova. Thank you very much for attending today as well. And also I would like to welcome the current chair of the Agri Council, so our Hungarian minister, István Nagy. I hope I pronounced it well because the Hungarian pronunciation is a little bit difficult. So it is a huge and immense pleasure and an honor, of course, for me to be standing here in front of you as Commissioner for Agriculture and Food. And I think some of you might know when you followed my hearing that I have as well a very personal connection to the sector because I'm stemming from a farm in the north of Luxembourg. And also my brother took over this farm, so it is something that is very close to my heart, and I'm very dedicated to make a future living for our EU agriculture sector. And for me, there is no better way to start my second week than here with you at the biggest event for agriculture and food in town, but also in Europe, I would say, and discussing with you what are the key elements of the future of our agriculture and food policy, a future that I want to shape in dialogue with all who have something at stake here. And I think that came out very clearly as well by the introduction of our President Ursula von der Leyen, that we need to go to dialogue and that we should stay away from a polarization that we might have had too strongly in the past. So I think we have today here players in the room, farmers and farmers from different ages. I think that is very important as well, but as well from different sectors. We have industry leaders here, we have consumers organizations here, NGOs, citizens, also experts and policymakers. So I think we have a good round to have as well a lot of input for a shared vision for the future of agriculture and food. And now I believe it is the moment to listen, to innovate and build policies that continue to uplift farmers and rural communities. And here I believe that everybody here in the room has a very important role to play. And I want to thank also President von der Leyen for her kind words on the continuous commitment to European agriculture, and that there is a recognition that really agriculture and food production is a very strategic sector for the European economy overall. And EIB President Nadia Calviño, I would like to thank you again for your inspiring speech and also for the commitments that you give to the agriculture sector. I think it is very important that we leverage as well funding and investment in the agriculture sector, because I named it as well during my hearing. We have an enormous investment gap, and this investment gap is as well hampering the innovation that is so much needed to be competitive, but as well to achieve our climate and environmental goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, President von der Leyen just acknowledged the crucial role of farming in rural areas in Europe's economy. And they shape our culture and anchor our strategic autonomy. And it is important to underline the sector's contribution to food security and environmental stewardship across our regions. And challenges are, of course, mounting. We have geopolitical tensions, we have climate change, economic hurdles, but the European farming proves its resilience time after time, and this, I think, deserves as well the necessary recognition. And therefore, I believe it is about time that we develop together a vision for the future of agriculture and food. Farming faces structural challenges that demand attention. Sharp decline in farms is a real challenge. An aging farming population, economic gaps within and with other sectors in the economy, and pressures make farming a risky and very stressful occupation. And at the same time, where there are challenges, I believe there are also all the time opportunities. And this is why we need a clear vision for a competitive, resilient and sustainable agriculture sector to halt or reverse challenges and unlock the sector's potential to seize the opportunities that the future will bring. And the vision will be a roadmap for the path ahead and the direction we should strive for. And it will cover a broad set of strategic issues for agriculture and food and for the farming community. The socio-economic situation of farmers, making farming occupation attractive again, making value chains fairer, enhancing resilience of farmers, incentives for sustainable farming practices, and identifying paths for alternative income generation, managing and reducing administrative burden. This is something a lot of farmers and actors are complaining about. Stimulating knowledge, innovation and investment, stimulating bioeconomy and circularity, and there as well, we need as well the appropriate funding and the investment. And we need a competitive food supply chain and stimulate sustainable food environments. And all these aspects need to be addressed to pave the way to generational renewal, because we need young farmers, and I'm happy that so many of them are present with us today. We have to start from a very simple question. What does a young farmer need today and in 2040 to enter, stay, or thrive in this profession? Without creating the right conditions, we risk losing next generations in agriculture. And I want to make generational renewal a central tenet for the way ahead. It has never been more critical than it is today, because we barely have 12% of our EU farming community that is below the age of 40, with an average of 57 years. And in that, we only have 3% of women. I think that is very important that we overcome these demographic challenges that I just mentioned. So what does a young farmer or a new farmer need in the future? I believe sufficient income to live off and invest in the future would be a first condition we have to thrive for. Secondly, essential resources. A farmer will need fertile soil and access to land and capital to be able to produce and to invest. Also, they will need key skills and technology to farm sustainably in a changing climate. Also, we need attractive rural areas supporting family farming across all our European Union. It is important that our rural communities have as well access, Nadia, you mentioned it as well, to broadband internet. If we want a future-orientated agriculture, we need this technological progress, and we need the same services that we often take for granted in the cities, that they are accessible as well in our rural areas. And I think it's also important that they will have the right enabling conditions for diverse crop production and sustainable livestock farming that align with the consumer demands. And also, I think it is really very important that consumer recognition of what it takes to farm, but also the fair compensation for high quality, safe European products produced with care of resources. We need to promote this better, and we need to make it known to our consumers what are the constraints and the efforts that our farming community is already doing, because this positive image of our EU agriculture production and our food production is very important to promote, and consumers need to be aware what they are paying for and what they really want on their plates. And if we get this right and put the right conditions in place, farming will hopefully again be an attractive economic sector. And I think this is something we definitely have to thrive for together. And this cannot be achieved through top-down mandates, and I think it's very important that we develop a shared roadmap for agriculture, collaborative effort that brings together farmers and food chain actors, rural communities, authorities, and youth. And it is for me, very important that I will also start tomorrow already with the youth dialogue, so with representatives from rural areas, but as well from the farming sector, to discuss about the future, because we are talking here about the next generation farmers. And I think it is very important to get it right and to get the concerns right and include this into our future actions. And also a very important point, the competitiveness, which is not only part of my mission letter, which is an overarching ambition of this Commission. We need to get the competitiveness as a central point into all our economic sectors, including agriculture, because a farmer in the end does not want to live from filling in papers. He wants to live from the good quality product that he brings to the market and that he elaborated with care. So I think it is very important that we support entrepreneurship in the food value chain, and that we must invest also in research and innovation to support the sector. And we must correct imbalances in the food chain, that farmers receive a fair share and the fair value for their products. And we must address the widening investment gaps. I mentioned them already, and we had in 2022, it was 33% higher gap than in 2017. So it's really a gap getting ever bigger. And so I'm very happy that Nadia Calviño is with us today and mentioned already the solutions that we will develop together for our agriculture sector. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that climate change and biodiversity collapse are certainly very important challenges that our farming community and our food production community wants to address, because they are not only the first victims, but they are also our best defense against changing climate. So I think it is very important to underline that our farming community wants to contribute to the fight against climate change, but we need to get it right, that we go towards incentives and not just top-down figures. That is not being helpful. We need to develop and bring the innovation and the adaptation to the grounds, to the fields, and this will be very key if we really want to do it in a manner that is together, and that I think should be our ambition there definitely as well. But therefore, I believe also that we need to better monitor what the efforts are already that are being done, and I think it's very important to say here as well that the Court of Auditors told us very clearly that we got the green architecture of the current CIP right, and that it is fit to develop to contribute to the 2030 targets. And I think it is important to highlight as well what we are already doing, better monitoring it, and I think that is something very important, because I don't want to go into a direction where we say, okay, you have to reduce livestock, or you have to reduce certain productions. I think that is not the way forward. We have to give the right tools to adapt and to deploy as well the innovation that is needed to fulfill our targets and get things right without cutting the production. Ladies and gentlemen, to make agriculture sustainable and competitive, as Ursula von der Leyen just announced, we need a food systems approach, and we need a holistic approach to address the challenges and opportunities that we face. And costs and risks of the transition must be fairly shared along the food supply chain. And transformations in processing, retail, and consumption are necessary and interlinked with changes in primary production. And modifying and clarifying rules on public procurement for food will be important to enhance legal certainty for public authorities, enabling them to support local and short food supply chains. And therefore also, I think a key word that has been addressed all over the past days as well in Council is simplification. And I think it is about time to stop talking over simplification. We must now do it. And I think the Commission already did a huge effort in this spring package with reducing administrative burden. For example, farms under 10 hectares are exempted from controls and penalties related to the compliance with conditionality requirements. But I think that can be done even more. And that is something where I will look very closely over the next weeks to be able eventually to come forward already in 2025 with a simplification package building on what has been done. And that is something that the ministers yesterday in the council welcomed very much as well. So I think it will be important to give already a certain relief before the bigger reform that we are doing for 2027. And I think another big point that was stemming from the strategic dialogue report, but it has been mentioned by Ursula von der Leyen as well, is that we need fairness for farmers in our food chain. And therefore it is very important that we will deliver on a reform of the Common Market Organization, which is strengthening the position of our farmers and enhancing their bargaining position towards retailers, towards other actors in the food supply chains. We need to do this, and we know that in certain member states it works well, in others it doesn't work so well. So we need really to address this, to encourage and promote the regroupment of farmers in producer organization to be better set in this. And secondly as well, the Unfair Trading Practices Directive, also mentioned by our President, needs to be that we need to have a clarification, because in the cross-border application we see that there are certain points not working well, and we need to clarify who is in charge and who is responsible to avoid situations where there will be conflicts between the different actors in the value chain. And then a very important point to mention, we are as well not living on an island here in the European Union. We are dependent and as well on the exchange with third countries. And that is something we need to frame and to accompany very diligently, I would say. And because we are, of course, importing goods, we are importing soy for our milk production, for etc., but we have as well a lot of export goods. So we had in 2023 an export overall of agriculture goods worth 230 billion euros. And this means a 70 billion surplus of exports. And this is, of course, very important, because it grants a good income to our farming and food producing community, but also we must enforce as well our the level playing field when it comes to international trade. We are dependent on imports, we are dependent on exports, but all needs to be done in commonly agreed rules, and we need more reciprocity. And I think we have already delivered in the past. One example that was a lot on the press these last weeks was, of course, the deforestation regulation, where I was still in charge in the European Parliament, but this brings a level playing field. We have very strict rules when it comes in the European Union to deforestation, but in other parts of the world it is not the case. And I think we need to be clear, those rules applicable in the European Union should as well be respected for goods that are coming in. There are several goods, meat, soy, etc., that are in the scope of this regulation. So it is very important that we do this. We do it as well on other parts. We have restricted now imports that are treated with neonicotinoids like clothianidin or thiamethoxam. And it is very important that we go more into that direction, that we have this reciprocity. But of course, we need to do this as well in the frame of the international organizations as well, like the WTO. And I think all eyes are now on the future of the CAP. The ministers yesterday handed over to me as well their conclusions and their inputs for the future of the CAP. So I think it is very important that we have the public and common CAP remains one solid tool that works to remedy the unwanted trends and help agriculture. And I think the common agriculture has delivered over the last 60 years very clearly to deliver to stability in our farming community, to deliver as well to the treaty objectives, as well to ensure that we deliver good quality and affordable foodstuff to our citizens. I think that is something very important that we have to remind everybody out there. I know a lot of people are aiming and looking at our CAP budget, but I think it is not the CAP budget that is too high. It would be the absence of a CAP budget that would come us way more expensive for the food production in the European Union, and it would the absence would also create a very dangerous dependency. So I think it is very important that we work together on a common agriculture policy that delivers on the treaty objectives, but that is as well mindful of our limited resources when it comes to climate and environment, soil protection, etc. So those need to be at the heart. I also want to have it future orientated, that we create a certain stability and predictability, because nobody wants to invest in something that might be changing drastically every 7 years, according to the MFF. So I think we need to work on a CAP reform that is working on an evolution rather than a revolution, to maintain those elements that work well, that deliver on the objectives, and fix those where it can be fixed and where it can be enhanced. So this would be my very, very important recommendation to all the actors. I will also be discussing this with, and it has been announced by President von der Leyen, we have launched now the call for applications for the new board on agriculture and food. So all the recognized organizations can now apply until the 8th of January, and hopefully we will get there a very good round around that table to discuss as well future orientations of our CAP. I will be chairing this European Board on Agriculture and Food, and I think it is very important that we maintain this positive dialogue approach, that we get all the actors around the table, and that we have as well common solutions that we will be presenting and giving to the co-legislators. This will be very important that we have this high-level input. And I am not, when I started my mandate, some people came to me and said, well, my condolences for taking up this new role as European Commissioner for Agriculture and Food. It is not an easy part. I would definitely agree on that, but it is something that where really my heart goes with it, and I want to create a better future for our future generation of farmers. I want to create a better environment for our children and for the next generation, and this goes only if all the actors go together. We want to deliver healthy food to our next generation, a healthy environment to our next generation, and even a next generation that produces those high quality foodstuff in the European Union. And I mean by that all the actors around the value chain. And therefore I'm very glad that you joined so numerous today in this room, and as well in the listening room and in over the digital way, to discuss those way forward. And I'm looking forward to very positive and constructive exchanges. And therefore I believe that we have a common and a good future, and it's on our shoulders now to create the right environment for that. Thank you.
Thank you.